I can say without hesitation, the University of Louisville has had a significant impact on my life, which led also into my career. But it really is a life-changing event for me, and principally because I'm a first-generation student, and U of L was always my option, and I love the university, and it's a fabulous school. It's a Carnegie R1, which is there's only 146 of those institutions in the world. We happen to be one of them. And in every major city in our country that is growing successfully and strongly, at the heart of that city, you will find a Carnegie R1 university. I guarantee that. Just, don't believe me, do the work. It is I think the prime determinant for a community's success is, do you have a Carnegie R1 at your core? Because they are powerhouses. And so that's the school I went to. I went to a powerhouse school. And so how did it affect my life? It gave me an education that I cherish today. It was a great education. My professors were fabulous. The administration was committed. And I would say that, what stood out to me as a student in all 4 years was the culture the university had. And as a student, it was like nothing else I'd ever experienced. I couldn't wait to study. I couldn't wait to take a test, not because, I love taking tests, but it was you knew you were someplace special when you were in the library, you're studying, when you're talking to kids, getting ready for a test, out on the lawn. It was something I'd never experienced before. And I always try to be where I am when I'm there and not think, too much about the past ever, but think about the present and plan for the future. And those have served me well over the years. But at the U of L, there were a lot of great moments every year. So it affected me profoundly. And in education, and then the culture of caring for the community. I went to a Town and Gown event my first year, and I saw the power that the university used for good to help tackle tough issues in the community, to help support and encourage those who needed support and encouragement. Whether an aspiring engineer comes to engineer days at the speed school, going to the Roush Planetarium and looking at the stars for the first time in a brand new way, were it not for the university, it would not have happened. So all these things that the university does to really wrap their arms around the city of Louisville were done. And I saw it firsthand, and I saw the culture that it created. And so a culture of service, of leadership, of grit, of determination, of resilience, taught us how to lead. It taught us how to lead with humility and integrity, and I'll never forget that. I had a professor in my senior year, we were complaining because we didn't have enough time to study for the test, because we had your senior year and the business school is full of some very tough classes. And there was only 12 of us in the class. He said, I got to tell you all something. He said, the greatest challenge you're going to have your entire life is managing your time. So I hear your complaints. I hear your concerns. You got to get through this, because you still got to take these tests. You still got to do this work. And I think as, young men and women that were looking to get jobs when we got out of school, if he hadn't cared so much, he would not have bothered to spend the time to say, this is what reality is like, guys. And you got to get out and get it done. So how did it change me? It changed me every which way. And it still does today, which leads into, I'm talking way too much, so I apologize. But, there is a lifetime opportunity to serve with the University of Louisville. My first opportunity came in '78 when I was doing some fundraising for the College of Business, and it led to the Alumni Association. And then the greatest thing is to be on the President's Council, which I absolutely love. I've been on that for 29 years. And it's a fabulous organization. But the opportunities to serve, to be a part of the U of L family are always presented to you. All you have to do is raise your hand. When you raise your hand, then you go to work and finish the job and get it done and look for the next thing to do. It's been part of my life for 5 decades. And I think that's right. 78 to, almost 50 years. It's hard to believe. I sound really old because I really am old. But I first started serving in '78. Now it's 2022. So it's been a long time. And it's a big part of my life. And that's why I chose it. I had no idea all this would happen as a result, but it sure did. And I'm so grateful for that. There's a lot of memories, obviously. I love going to school. I love going to school at night, in the summers. I just love going to school. And then working with the school. But something happened, and it was in November of 2017. There was I used to be responsible for the Tennessee market for my employer. And I spent about 15 years of my life down there. I lived in Louisville, but I spent a lot of time in Tennessee, spent a lot of time in Nashville. And it always occurred to me that Nashville's one of the most successful cities in the country. But they don't have a major public university in Nashville. I always thought that was a little strange. They've got great private schools. Vanderbilt's a top 10 school, great schools like Belmont and Lipscomb, but there's not a big Carnegie R1 there like U of L is, or like Texas is in Austin, or Georgia Tech in Georgia, or in Atlanta, or NC State in Raleigh. You think about the great big public universities. There just wasn't one in Nashville. And so that to me was intriguing. And I thought that, what if we, as U of L, became that school for them? I've always thought the cities were connected by Interstate 65. And back in the 1840s, both cities actually built a railroad so they could have commerce between the two cities. Kentucky built most of the rail line. They built it down to the border. Tennessee had to finish 30 miles. The Kentucky entrepreneurs had to finish 140 miles, but it all worked out. So there's always been this connection between the two cities. So what if we played upon that, not as our hook, but if history is a good teacher, I think it is, there's been this wonderful relationship between these two communities. And we thought we could play on that. And we did. We did our homework. I was on a board down there that gave me access down in Nashville, that had access to educators. It was, and counselors. And so I talked to them about it. Could we want, as a university, could we meet with the high school counselors and the Metro Nashville schools and one of the adjacent counties in Williamson County? And we did. We planned it. It was a wonderful experience to do that. So our president, our dean of our business school, our dean of our engineering school, and our director of admissions, we all went down there after a lot of preparation, a lot of notes, a lot of scheduling. And we had two huge meetings, one in the morning for Williamson County, one in the afternoon for Davidson County. And it was fabulous. It was overwhelming. The reception that we received from the counselors and from the educators, it's more than we anticipated. We hoped it would be successful, and it was. The thesis was correct. I think it wasn't that because, I always think there's always something special about the University of Louisville. But if I go back to my roots, the thing that was special about this is that we led with our hearts. We did our planning, but we cared. We wanted to provide a solid educational opportunity for kids that were probably going to go to a public university. That was our thesis. And there are a bunch of great schools that do that in Nashville. We wanted to be one of them. And we wanted to do it, in a way that might, have us accelerate to the head of the line. And I'm not sure that we did that, but we sure felt that we made progress that day. But that whole event was transformative for me because of this. Driving back to the hotel with our president at that time, I said, what is it? We had a great day today. We made a lot of progress. We got a lot of friends. I think we can recruit from this community and do it well and bring more students into the U of L. And Nashville's growing. I think they grew about 30% over 10 years in their population. So it's a city of 2.5 million people, I guess, in their metro area, something like that. And so that's set. But what's the next thing we should be focused on? And I'll never forget the words he said. He said, you walk across campus today and you see 4 students. 2 of those students probably aren't going to graduate, and 2 of them will. So when I do that, I'll talk to 4 students, but I also know those 2 of those students won't make it through the 6 years to get their degree. And to me, I had no idea. And that led to an exploration of why that is so across America. The average graduation rate of any student there's 21 million kids going to school right now, going to college. The average national graduation rate is around 55%, 54, 53%, something like that. So we're about on average. But, you know, I think the stats show that by 2027, we'll run out of college graduates for our economy. And there's a big push by a lot of really smart people to try to do something about it. I thought, wouldn't it be neat if we did something about it at U of L? So that became a passion of mine. And what I learned was that as a first generation student, I didn't know, but first generation students, the average graduation rate for first gen student is 35%, 35 to 40% won't make it. They won't make it out. And if they don't make it out, they're probably gonna have some college debt they're gonna have a hard time paying back. And what's really frightening is if you're a first generation student that is at or below the poverty level, which a lot of first gens are, almost half of them are. You know, the graduation rate is 11%. 11% means 89% don't make them, but they were able to get into college with their test scores and their grades. So that's an opportunity that I think we can harvest all day long. And how do we transform, I think, our city, our community, our university? We graduate more students. And to me, they're already here. They're already walking around our campus today. Because I think we are blessed as a university because of that culture of ours, that we want to appeal to every student. We want to be a student for, like, you know, this guy from Seneca High School was a first gen. That was my choice. That was my opportunity. I knew that, you know, for a long time, that's where I wanted to go because I could work and I could go to school. And so that was my choice. And what a choice. And so we can provide, I think, these opportunities. And Neely's to say something was always profound, always is a call to actions, because we are a Carnegie R1 university. There's only 146 of them. They're the best of the best, and we're one of the best of the best. We provide world-class research. Research dollars have an average multiplier sometimes 7 and 10 times. So you get a research dollar that's going to multiply 7 to 10 times. Nothing accelerates like that. So it's great for the community, provides jobs and opportunities. Culturally, it's a difference maker. And so we're blessed to be an R1. We can never lose that. We're also, as an R1, if you look at all 146 R1s out there, the average Pell eligible student population is around 20 to 25%. We're at 40%. We might be the highest. Don't know that for a fact, but we're way off the median. And that's a challenge, but I think it's the greatest of opportunities because, you know, and for those of you I'm talking who are first gens, you know, you always had to work around difficulties. You're resilient. You've got grit. You've got perseverance. Nothing really affects you except you love a challenge. You love being told you can't get something done or you probably weren't going to make it. That's just going to make you work double hard to get it done. So just think if you provide a college education on top of that, resiliency and grit and determination and perseverance, there's no stopping that person or that student or that U of L graduate. So long answer to your question, which is a great question, but those days in November, the day we'd made the presentation and the fact that the president shared with me, I don't know how the question would be answered, but that started, you know, why are we only graduating 54, 55% of our kids at U of L? Now that number's up to 60%, which is a huge leap. But, you know, the average of all the ACC public schools, you take out Duke, Wake Forest, you know, Miami, Notre Dame, and you got to take out Virginia, North Carolina, even though they're public schools, they look more like private schools. But if you look at the public schools like North Carolina State, Florida State, Pittsburgh, Clemson, ourselves, I wish I could write them all off the top of my head. I can't. But I think there are 7 public schools in the ACC. The average graduation is 84%. We're at 60%. We'll make it to 84%. There's no doubt about that. You just have to work and get it done. We'll get it done. There's no doubt about that. But what a difference we'll make when we're there. Instead of 5.5 out of every 10, we're at 8.5 out of every 10. It'll be a completely different place. I can't imagine not thinking about U of L. I think about U of L daily. And I'm grateful for this. It means so much to me to be an ambassador for the university. I never anticipated this would ever happen to me. I mean, I still think of myself, walking into the administration building, making an application to go to. I had no idea what I was doing. They said you need to go walk past the thing or go up the steps, and that's where you meet the registrar. I didn't know about the award. I'm very grateful and very humbled to have this opportunity. I'm still always going to think about U of L every day. And now it's really a passion for U of L's first generation students, and getting as many as we can here from every state we can. We need to be the place that mom and dad in Texas or Nebraska or Virginia who has that first gen daughter or son, they say, where can we send our daughter and son? Because they just got a 31 on their ACT and they've got a 4.0. What school can we send them to? What Carnegie R1 can we send them to? They can take the best care of my daughter or my son. And it leaps off the page. That's the University of Louisville. That's, to me, that would be, I'd love to have a part of that. And if this, maybe as an ambassador, maybe I can help do that or something. So I'm very grateful for the award. I never expected it, but I certainly am grateful for it. Thank you.